Cloud. Oh, it just started. All right. Well, all right. Well, then, hello. Welcome to Virtual Coffee Lunch and Learn Edition. Virtual Coffee's mission is to be a welcoming tech community that allows room for growth and mentorship at all levels and to create meaningful opportunities for learning, leadership, and contribution for everyone. To find our code of conduct, events, or learn more, you can check out our site at virtualcoffee.io. We are very happy to have you all here with us today, and I especially want to thank our presenter, Marie, for being here. Marie is a career changer living in Boston, starting off her software journey by joining a coding bootcamp called DeltaV Code School. She is now a solutions engineer at a large startup called Harness, based in the Bay Area. So, other side of the country, you got living in the East Coast, working for the West Coast. I like it. I'll drop some links in here to Harness and Marie's personal links. Yes, today she's going to be talking about implementing feature flags. I'm going to let Marie kind of take over from here because I don't, if I try to define it, I don't think I'll just probably do a good job. So Marie can tell you what feature flags mean and how we can use them to be more awesome. So Marie, thank you. And yeah, take it from here.
Cool. Yeah, I'll share my screen. All right. Hey guys. I mean, it seems weird talking to myself, but here I am chatting with myself. Okay, so yeah, I'm here to talk about feature flags, and I'll be weird while doing it because I'm awkward. So my agenda is Dan kind of gave my bio. I started off as a chef, which seems kind of weird. We all come from various backgrounds here at Virtual Coffee, so it's not that crazy here. And then I started off as being a .NET developer at a very small startup, and then I got into basically how I got into my job now is I start off as working on open source through Virtual Coffee. So Virtual Coffee's Hacktoberfest kind of got my resume ready for my job now, which was working at Harness as their first community engineer and focusing on all of their free and open source products. Then I'll kind of like talk about Harness, and then I'll give you a feature flags overview, why it's beneficial, what you can use it for, and then I'll give you a demo that might or might not work, depending on if I can get it to work. So yeah, this morning it was broken, so it will be very fun times. Okay, so what is Harness? I know some of you might have heard of like LaunchDarkly or something. They're just a feature flag service. Harness is a full end-to-end software delivery platform. We have everything from continuous integration, which is building and testing your code, chaos engineering, which will kind of help you do like game day simulations, testing your systems, security testing, orchestration, continuous delivery, what we'll be talking to, feature flags, cloud cost management, service reliability management, and that's it. So what are feature flags? The feature flags is kind of solves quite a bit of problems. It helps you solve the risk in large deployments, also small deployments, because working at my first startup, I built a tenant to landlord ACH payment system, and that thing was riddled with bugs. I think someone was saying before the session that they were dealing with some bugs, but like if you're building out an entire feature, you push it out into production and then you realize it doesn't work. How do you usually solve that problem of, holy crap, this whole feature doesn't work? What do I do? A lot of larger companies do what's called a rollback, which they'll just roll back that entire feature like it didn't exist. But with feature flags, you can control feature access. So you can put that feature behind a feature flag, release it into production. Your developers can test it in production, and then it's all good. So you can figure out it works without actually releasing like that bug riddled feature into production. There's a problem with no control in production. Production issues affect all users. You might not think it's a big deal if it's a small bug, but it could be in reality. Increasing risk, because this will actually make your customers or users less trusting in your product. And then there's a diminishing return on continuous integration and continuous delivery with slow and cumbersome deployments, lack of production governance, and there's also more tech debt. So at my first job with the company I work for, when we released bugs into production, it could take months to fix all the bugs that we implemented by choice. So yeah, so it really does lead to poor developer experience. So harness feature flags ensures velocity control and developer experience. So you can increase velocity because you can test all of these small features or potentially big features, depending on how you guys like to release things. You can iterate quicker, you can control your releases, so you can test, iterate, and progressively deliver. So with feature flags, you can release to just production, so your developers will have access. You can release to, you could do what's called a percentage rollout. You can release to just like 10% of your users, and then 10% more, then 10% more, then 10% more, or you can just flip the flag on and off, depending on what you want. And then you have operational control. So you can actually have access, like if say you thought you tested it all the way, you thought it didn't have bugs, so you turned the flag on to release it to your users, and you figured out there was a bug, you could just turn the flag back off like it didn't exist to get rid of that bug really quick, fix it, and then push it out to production. And then customer access is also one of the benefits. So why feature flags? You can control access to features. You can toggle feature and availability in production. You can resolve issues without having to roll back the system if that's what you do. And then you can have smaller deploys with less risk. You can minimize the blast radius of changes. So say you're just adding a button like we'll do in our demo, but that button truly does quite a bit more. There's a lot of functionality that goes along with it. So you'll minimize the impact of that, and then empower teams outside of engineering to actually just go along with the features too. So here's where we get to do the fun part, which is the demo. Okay, so here I'll kind of be using this Bank of Harness app where we have a test user with password like any other banking app you'll have. I'll sign in, thank goodness, still works. Then you have your kind of checking account. We will basically be taking away this send payment button and implementing the send payment button through a feature flag. And how we will do this is we will kind of log into the Harness app, which is app.harness.io. And we have, you can see we have all of our modules, but we'll just be focused on our feature flags module today. And we will be getting started with feature flags. So I will be creating a new flag called send payment. And then we'll copy the payment ID. And then we're going to implement this flag in JavaScript. As you can see, we have a lot of languages that we do support: .NET, Ruby, Node, JavaScript, some of the popular languages I know Virtual Coffee users use. And then I'll just create this for our development environment. And then I will create our SDK key, which I will conveniently name for your local development. And then I will copy this key for later use. So this also is nice. You don't have to go to our documentation to figure out which SDK you need. It'll just show you. But we do have quite a lot of SDKs if you want to use feature flags. So we have, let's see, we have the overview. We have server-side SDKs and client-side SDKs. We're on the front end, so we'll use the client-side SDK. And we'll click back into the JavaScript SDK. I kind of forgot to give you guys an overview of the app we're doing. It's a Python-based app on the front end, and it has a JavaScript backend. I am also using something called Scaffold scaffold dev, which will build all of my Kubernetes containers, which you can see. I have this already like pre-set up, which everything is running now, so I can run my Kubernetes on my local host directly, and it'll implement any of the changes I make here too. So kind of walking forward, I will start getting into the code a bit to implement this feature flag, as long as I can remember what to do. So we'll kind of go in here. And first things first, actually, I'll do this side by side. Can everyone, is the code big enough for everyone to read? I guess that's important too.
Yeah, if you wanted to bump it up like one size, that'd probably be all right.
Yeah, I'll do one size. There. Well, that's weird. Oh no, I think I don't know why this is being strange. I should have checked this before I started this, but I didn't. Okay, well, we'll just go on with it. So first, we're not going to use npm to install the SDK. We're just going to use this thing called unpackage. And then we'll copy this script and we will be putting it into our index.html. This is probably not best practice. You should probably have your JavaScript in a separate file, but for this, we'll just do this here. And we will put this on line 467. Here, yes. See, I feel like I did something wrong already. Yeah, there we go. Fix that. Okay. So this is pulling in that JavaScript SDK. And then we will want to show, so we've initialized the SDK, we'll need to then add the SDK key for an initialization here. And then we will replace all of these basically. So this is just we're adding an event listener here. Okay, so. Okay, so then we'll go into our Kubernetes YAML, or no, front end.py. No, okay. Sorry guys, I'm a little mixed around. Okay, yeah, here's where we'll add our key. No, not that one. Here we go. And then save it. So we're just adding this into the YAML so we can use this later. And then we will go back and replace these environment variables. So here, this will be that harness. Yeah, the harness. Feature flag SDK key, which we created in this harness Python. So whenever this SDK feature flag key changes, we can just change it here in the YAML instead. And then we'll put that here. Just like that. And then we will kind of get started on replacing these. So for the identifier, we'll want the account ID. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Yeah, account ID. And then name is just name. And then we have some attributes, which we don't use email, we use username. So this will just be username. And then we do want to add some additional parameters so we can debug later. Does anyone have any questions?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Cool. Let's see. Just pulling up my next steps. Okay, yeah. And then we want to do. And then we'll want to do some extra debugging. This is what I needed. So you want last updated in the host. There we go. Okay, so now that we have that implemented, we'll save that, and then we will go back into the reference and start doing the evaluation for the flag. So we will be picking when the event has changed. So when the flag is flipped or when the flag is enabled, that's when we will actually register this event listener. So we will copy this and implement it here. And we will. Okay, so we'll implement if the flag is deleted, then it's deleted, then else we'll change the flag. And then we'll also add some console logs to help us in the way. And then lastly, we will want to make sure we can enable the SDK, which then will go up here. Okay, yes, yeah. I skipped a step, and then we will go to the evaluation of the flag, which will basically be saying, has an example of dark theme. So if it's off, it's dark theme. If it's on, it'll be light theme. But we're doing the button in this case. So let's see. We have that implemented. And then next we will add the flag to enable and disable our feature flag, which will be here. Okay. And then this is basically saying if the flag is enabled, we'll get the send payment div and then remove. So I'll add a class hidden to this, and then else we won't hide the button. So we'll kind of go up here to that button. If I can remember where I saw it. Okay, yeah, it's here. And then we'll add the class hidden. Let's see. And then we will hit next. And then we'll wait till our flag is validated, and then that's basically it for the flag. So it's just a few lines of code. I know I ran through this pretty quick because I was very rough with my demo and I kind of messed up before I started, but once the feature flag is implemented, it'll showcase here. I might have to restart my scaffold project, but everything else does look right. So hopefully it just works. If I remembered all of the steps correctly. But other than that, hopefully it does work. So we're just waiting for it to deploy, which it did say it will take like up to 2 to 3 minutes. But other than that, I think it should work. Let's see. No questions yet so far? I think lunch and learns are harder than demos because nobody talks.
I guess oh, did it work? I was
No.
going to say while we're waiting for it to reload.
Yeah. Let's see.
I imagine you're probably going to get to this, but I was just like, some of my questions are really about like workflow and stuff, like how do you, how big of features, or small or whatever, like
you can use feature flag for any size feature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you really want to get, like, we could have just implemented like dark mode and light mode. But we could also just use like, I guess I could open up another tab where we do have a feature flag enabled. I can't remember where it is. But let's see.
Justin has a good question in the chat too. So like for a feature flag, once if you were using it for development or whatever, at some point maybe you just decide, well, we're always going to have this feature. Do people usually go and remove the
Yeah.
flag and the checking and things like that?
Yep, so you'll want to remove stale flags. So if you, for us at least, I don't know how LaunchDarkly does this, but you can click this potentially stale flag. So if your flag is so old, then you'll want to remove it. Because feature flags can be good, but they can also be bad if they're introducing a ton of extra code. So if you just have a ton of flags everywhere that are permanently on, you'll want to remove all of those flags. So that's weird. Maybe I didn't set something up right. Let's see. Let me check. Let's see, because it should be pretty quick. Location date. Okay. Yeah, it still says. Maybe I did something wrong. Oh, also, let's see. Let me see if I can just end this. So let me run it. I've actually also never used this scaffold.dev, but it's pretty nice to run all of your like Kubernetes. We have different Kubernetes containers, Docker containers running that I can just run on my local host. So we'll just wait for that to respin up. Line 20. That's why there's an error. Okay. There we go. That's also a problem when it doesn't tell you that there's an error. There's an error and it just lets you think it's going to be okay.
While we're waiting for this to spin up, just had another good question. Does Harness support feature flag by segments? So if
Like, yeah,
only 25% of our customers should see this, or
yep, we do. So you can, oh, let's see. Is that under chart? Yeah, so we could do a percentage rollout and you can make different groups, say like, maybe I only want people in Norway to see this. Like you can set up this, maybe you have regions or by potentially like yeah, different regions or maybe beta users or 25% of customers.
How do you set those? How do you set those like groups up?
You can select a target group. So I think you set that up and to target management here. And then you can set that up that way. And then any of these, like we now have a pipeline flag, which I should have pulled up like a good feature flag demo. But let's see. Let me see if I can find a good feature flag demo. But you can actually do a feature flag pipeline. So say if you want to roll it out to 10% and then like get some sort of like maybe user feedback, you can do it that way too. This should be, yeah, so we have progressive rollouts. Let's see, let's check this one. So like they'll have a beta rollout, which they'll have a beta release. Then they have a Jira ticket for production rollout. And they'll do a production rollout, which it'll be 10% wider release gate, 70%, 90% full rollout. And then they'll get another sign off. So we integrate with Jira, ServiceNow. We also have a Harness like ticket manager too. And then there's a whole like rollback setup. So it'll just reset all of these too once it's fully released. So yes, we can do segments as well. Okay, it looks like that is up. Let's see if it is actually, okay, it actually still says it's not deployed, so I'm not exactly sure what is happening yet. So I don't. That's also the problem. It doesn't. This mode doesn't really give you a good way of showcasing if I do have, well, I guess I see some sort of error, but it scrolls by so fast. So I guess we can wrap it up, Dan, because I don't know how to debug this other than like I'll have to meet with my coworker to see how I can get this, because this should say that it's live, like there should be a green dot here. And then I should just be able to like flag it. So I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what happened.
Well, yeah, so does anybody else have questions? All right, so we got a question from Aaron. Is it recommended to use feature flags with target groups to add cookie banners for like people in the EU, for example?
So like, would you use a feature flag? So like say, what do you mean by cookie banners? Do you want to come off mute to explain like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I get it. Aaron,
Okay.
if you want to, you can obviously,
Yeah.
but the feature, like the cookie banners that you see, so for EU customers need to follow some recommendations, and that includes like showing those banners that I'm sure you've seen where like accept cookies or not, and that's a EU
yeah,
thing.
that could be used for a feature flag.
Yeah.
Yep. So like only people, so like Harness is like a global company. We have customers all over. So we have to adhere to the GDPR, which Europe has very different standards, which I've actually had to find out the hard way because I used to email people from our open source community, like out of the blue, which is actually very unwelcomed apparently, which I'm the same way. I don't like random emails, but we actually had to get legal involved because we shouldn't have been doing that. But yeah, we should have had some sort of flag, like if they're in America, like South America or other countries that don't have a GDPR, then we could do this. If not, then have the cookie banner. But yeah, cookie banner would be nice. Or like pop-up modals. Or if you wanted only a certain amount of people to say like utilize like auto payment. So if you don't really have auto payment set up, but you just built auto payment like I did at my last job, but we want to release it to an actual customer to see how they use it, you could do that too. So like beta users, I think that would be a good use case.
Nice. I was wondering, so if you use this on some front end code, right? I mean, I know that works just fine. But
Yep.
I was wondering, so it needs a network connection, I would imagine, to
Yeah.
grab the flags or whatever. And so if your app supports like not, people that are off network, like how does Harness, like how do you deal with that?
So like how do we deal with people who aren't using it? Like so
No. So like the app is loaded and doesn't have a network connection, and it's just like working.
Oh, so that'd probably be like feature that wouldn't load. So probably just wouldn't load at that in that case if they didn't have a network.
Just like set up some sort of default or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it would load on the next connection.
Right.
I might double check that because that's an interesting question. We do have people who use it for like, I think one of our last users was like embedded systems. So they used it to roll out like other like random features. Let's see. And then some other use cases would be, I'm just quickly looking it up on our. Yeah, we can have, there's quite a few use cases for feature flags. Governance. So if you want to like make sure only certain people can push into production, you can do it that way. Testing in production, kill switches and safety valves. So like releasing a product that might be buggy if it's super buggy, then they can just turn it off, which leads to like faster incident resolution. This could also empower non-technical teams. So a lot of our salespeople will hop into our feature flags and then enable feature flags for certain customers. Say like, Dan, you want to use like our new .NET features for test intelligence, we'll just flip it on for you. Even though it's not fully live yet to everyone, we can flip it on for you.
That's pretty cool.
Beta testing, customer feedback, targeted rollout, progressive delivery, trunk-based development, which I've always done trunk-based development, but apparently that's like some people don't always use trunk-based development. So that's another use case. And then product entitlements is also like a use case for feature flags.
Yeah, I'd imagine once you start digging in, there's lots of ways to use it. You're had another question, and he apologized in case he missed the answer to this, but since the app was quite big, does Harness itself need to be a single Docker container, or does it need multiple services to work at all?
For the like Bank of Harness kind of thing I did, or is app.harness?
Right. I'm not sure. You might have to clarify that one a little bit. I could see that question going different ways.
Yeah, so do you mean like this? Is this
right, because that's a service, right?
Yeah, so
and like
you'll just go to our website, which is because we do software as a service, but if you're like we have like government customers that use on-prem, or like Bitcoin crypto people who use on-prem for like security reasons. So our application can also be on-prem, which we don't have access. Like we couldn't do so much setup with you if it was on-prem, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think like depending on installing it is just like if you wanted it for a JavaScript thing, it's just sort of a
yeah, you could use an SDK, or you could go about the way like I kind of showed you with the like what's it called, CDN.
Right. So I think the container stuff, Erin, was just her local kind of setup.
Yeah, so that's just for the
application
demo app. Yeah, which Google built and then we modified. So it's just a bank, like a traditional banking app, which is kind of showing like microservices, because we do kind of cater to people who are trying to like streamline their what is it called? Like agile, like going for more agile methodologies and such, and getting better at DevOps practices. Kind of goes into like moving into microservices, but this is a monolithic app, so everything's just in this one repo. Hi, Justin. Oh, the platform. No, so this is all just ran through app.harness.io, Bjorn.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Because our app is quite huge.
Right. Yeah, I'd imagine the actual service app is large, but that's not something that.
No,
I think you have to pay probably a lot of money to do the on-prem installation, I would imagine.
I actually, don't quote me on this. I wouldn't think it would be more expensive, because you have to manage it all yourself, like with SaaS. Like I can just hop into your account and create things for you if you want. Like, I don't know how to create this dashboard. Okay, I'll just go in and do it for you. So I have like access to all of that. So yeah, it's nice to manage like teams that way. And you could, like in projects, you can set up like everything you set up basically is either by the account level, the project level, or the organization level. So you can set up different things per level. So if you only want people to access things a certain way, then you can. And I don't know how many people are familiar with like role-based access control, or like setting up OPA policies. That also can be utilized within Harness too, very easily, by just setting it up in your account settings. Like say I want Dan only be able to push to certain branches or certain things, like you can set that up with policies. So if I don't want everyone pushing to the main branch, just like you do on GitHub, like set up branch protections, you can do that here too. Yeah, so it's quite nice.
Very cool. All right. Do we have any other questions? You're said, I guess. So hopefully he's kind of wrapped up. I mean, I feel like if you would like some more clarity, if you want to jump on, I'm sure Marie would
Yeah,
want
feel
to
free to jump on your.
talk, or we can catch up on Slack after. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering whether it's whether I can use it like in my Docker posts and just have like one more service instead of it just looked like a lot of stuff that was done
Yeah,
there,
so
but
you
I
could
guess
use
that
this
was
like
only
a
this
simple
bank demo app, right?
Yeah,
So
so basically the architecture of that demo app was just utilizing all those like tiny microservices. So it had a lot of components, but if you spun up like a hello world and then wanted to add a feature flag to the hello world, adding like a sign in or like a text box that does nothing, you could put that behind a feature flag too. It doesn't matter how complex your app is, you can always add a feature flag to it. Even if it's like, oh, a feature flag to change the background color from blue to pink, you can do that too. Like something as simple as that, or change the font from like 10 to 50, that too.
okay, but that's usually you're using the app.harness.io directly, right? The cloud platform.
Yep.
And not the. Okay, yeah, I just mentioned it because I've used Unleash before, and we used it like as a separate service, and you could basically just use that in your Docker post, and then use that to create and check the feature flags in there.
Yeah.
Just wondering whether I could run Harness myself on premise, basically as just one Docker service there.
Yeah, you can't do it on-prem. Could you also link me to like the Unleashed one too? Because I don't think I've heard of that one.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, because I am most familiar with like Launch Darkly.
There, I put a link in the chat. It's getunleashed.io.
All right, cool. Yeah, I haven't heard of this. But yeah, that's all I have. If no one has any other questions.
All right. Well, if that is it, I think we'll wrap up for today. Thank you again, Marie, so much for coming on. This is really cool. The feature flags thing, it looks really neat, and it's.
I wish my demo would have worked.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. We can, I'm like we can follow up on Slack. I'm sure it was just like something we missed because you were trying to talk and type at the same time.
Yeah.
And you'll figure out what it was as soon as we end the call. I imagine. At least that's the way it usually goes for me. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. We will post this on YouTube when we can. And yeah, if anybody else has any questions, feel free to reach out in the events room in Slack at Virtual Coffee, and find all the rest of our events and everything like that, virtualcoffee.io. And we will see you next time. Thanks again, Marie. Bye, everyone.